picked up a third-round pick, 83 overall in the deal. So Washington acquiring a third-round pick, which they did not have, lost that in the Carson Wentz trade. So they're back in the game in the third round. But this was the pick all along. And they mulled over what to do at 15 or at 11 initially, got the call from the Eagles, decided to move back, pick up the additional third rounder, and the same guy was still there, and they figured he would be there. And this is probably a better spot for him to come off the board. This makes a ton more sense. Again, really doesn't matter. Get your guy when you feel the need to get your guy, but you feel a lot better when you feel like the value meets where the selection is actually made. That's what's going to happen for Washington here. And so Terry McLaurin's been outside playing by himself, pause, for a very long time. He's finally going to get some help. And it's just ironic that it's a fellow Ohio State Buckeye. With the 15th pick overall in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Washington Commanders select Chris Olave, wide receiver, the Ohio State University. So now the Giants are on the clock for the second time in this draft to make a selection. They've actually been on the clock 3 times in this draft, made a trade back from 5, and that allowed them to pick up this pick and 19 overall. So you'll see the Giants here in a second again. However, this is a team, as we talked about, new GM, looking to rebuild this roster, kind of turn it over a bit. So early on, they took Derek Stingley Jr. because they're going to trade their star corner, James Bradbury. So now what do? You need to protect Daniel Jones or whomever's at quarterback. I don't think they're long-term invested in Daniel Jones, but whomever's at quarterback needs to be protected. Jones hasn't been protected the best in his young NFL career. So giving him a fighting chance to prove himself, you need to give him a guy that's going to allow him to stand up in the pocket and deliver the football. That's what the Giants are looking to acquire here at 16, and that's exactly what they're going to do with the 16th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. The New York Giants select Charles Cross, tackle, Mississippi State. I think he's the best pass-blocking tackle this draft has to offer. You get to number 17, and it's the Los Angeles Chargers. What an offseason they've had. They missed the postseason in a heartbreaking game in Week 18 to the Raiders. You go into the offseason knowing that the opportunity is there. You've got the quarterback. He's proven it now 2 years in a row. He's shown you that he's elite. So now the window is officially open if you're the Chargers, and now they're trying to go through it. They trade for Khalil Mack. They also acquire J.C. Jackson via free agency, so now the defense is getting better. Now you got to add some more pieces offensively. It'd be nice. You got Mike Williams back. That's great. It'd be nice to add another receiver with some speed to go with that mix already of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, but you know what you need to do first and foremost is protect Justin Herbert. We all watched that Week 18 performance. We saw Storm Norton at right tackle. And yeah, it was a storm, all right. It was a Hurricane Max attack. 2 X's, okay? As he kicked Storm Norton's ass in that game, you can't have that shit with Justin Herbert back there. You got to protect your commodity, and that's exactly what the Chargers are looking to do. They took Rashawn Slater last year in the first round. They're going to double up tackles in back-to-back years by getting a guy that I think is the nastiest tackle in this draft and one of my favorite players. With the 17th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Trevor Penning, tackle, Northern Iowa. So now the Eagles are on the clock at 18. They had a boatload of picks before they started playing around and trading some away. They still got picks out of the wazoo. So trading up, 4 spots to get their guy, Jordan Davis, that's nothing to the Eagles. It's chump change. Give away a 3rd-round pick. They got picks for days. So, again, much rather have the Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich than the Popeye chicken sandwich. They could have stayed at home and gotten Devontae Wyatt, but why? When I can go get Jordan Davis, and that's what they did. So now they're in a position here at 18 to bolster that secondary. They got Darius Slay on one side. Who's on the other side? The answer is nobody. So they need to shore up the secondary. They've already shored up the front seven with a defensive tackle. Now you go get somebody in the back end to give you a little bit more coverage and feel good about. And I got just the guy for the Eagles here. With the 18th overall selection in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Trent McDuffie, corner, Washington. His tape is as clean as it gets. Absolutely sparkling footwork. Always where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there. You love players like that. They're well coached. I loved Elijah Molden coming out of that program last year. They're well coached in the secondary at Washington. They're getting a really good high IQ football player at 18 in McDuffie. So the Giants are on the clock now, and the Giants are on the clock again because they made that trade earlier with the Saints. And so the Giants sit here at 19 with an opportunity to make their third selection of the first round. They've already taken Derek Stingley Jr. at 7. They took Charles Cross at 16. And now oh, look at Joe Sean. Look at Joe out here getting freaky. Oh, it's the Tennessee Titans. Looky. So the Titans, what could they possibly be coming up for here at 19? I mean, this is a team that 2 years ago was in the AFC Championship game. Last year, they won the division, number 1 overall seed. A lot of people forget that they were the number 1 overall seed because they were here 1 second, gone the next. And so why could the Titans be coming up? Well, what could possibly be piquing their interest? I'll tell you what it is. The Steelers sit there at number 20. The Steelers have every intention of taking a quarterback. And the one that they really want isn't there anymore. So this was the Steelers' backup plan. The Titans know that. And the Titans said, okay, a wise man once told me the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. We saw Ryan Tannehill in the postseason last year. When they needed him the most, he was awful. And so they want to try something different. And I applaud them for trying something different here. They're going to come up and they're going to get a guy at the quarterback position that they think is going to help them turn the corner. We'll see. With the 19th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Desmond Ridder, quarterback, Cincinnati. Now, I applaud the Titans for being aggressive and trying something different because clearly what they're doing right now isn't going to get them where they ultimately want to be. But replacing Ryan Tannehill with Ryan Tannehill to me doesn't necessarily move the needle. Desmond Ridder isn't going to lose you football games like Ryan Tannehill did in the playoffs last year, but he's not going to win you games either. He's not out-dueling Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow. I can go on and on. Deshaun Watson. The AFC is loaded. He's not out-dueling any of those guys, but maybe he doesn't have to. Maybe he just needs to manage the game, hand it to Derrick Henry, and not throw interceptions with the game on the line. Maybe that will be good enough. I can say this. Luke Fickell, the coach of Cincinnati, is best friends with Mike Vrabel. That's his boy. He was his best man in his wedding. He's telling Mike, you need to go get this kid. He's got the goods. Mike's listening, and now he's going up and getting his guy, Desmond Ridder. So the Steelers are now left kind of like, shit, what do we do? I mean, it wasn't a lot to pick from to begin with. We wanted Malik. He was gone way too early for us. We thought about Kenny Pickett, hometown kid, went to Pitt, made a ton of sense. He went way too early for us. We were going to take Desmond Ridder. We were really set on Desmond Ridder. You can win a lot of football games with that kid. Well, he's gone now. You got to do something. Do you? Could you just take something else and move on? I mean, the tragic death of Dwayne Haskins stings because that would have been some nice competition going into camp. Maybe Haskins could have, shown you a little something and gotten an opportunity. you can't be sold on Mitchell Trubisky, right? Like, that can't be the answer here. It can't be. Maybe it is. But the Steelers aren't really willing to find out. With the 20th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Matt Corral, quarterback, Ole Miss. So the New England Patriots are now on the clock at 21, and I think they got way more than they bargained for last year with rookie quarterback Mac Jones. Got to the playoffs, got their asses handed to them when they got there, but at least they made it to the playoffs. No more Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator, so it'll be interesting. This is the first time Belichick's been without Josh McDaniels in quite some time. It'll be interesting to see how that offense looks. But the defense is interesting because they traded Stephon Gilmore last year in season. They lose J.C. Jackson in free agency. They really didn't replace either one of those guys in free agency. They could take a corner right here, and that would make a ton of sense. But there's a guy sitting here that is just the perfect Belichickian pick. Like, he fits what Bill Belichick likes to do. He is versatile. He can do a lot of different things. And he's sitting right here for Belichick to take. And while they need a corner, they could even take a receiver here. And there's a lot of options. Belichick can't help himself. This guy is the prototypical NFL linebacker in today's game. And boy, does he look like a guy Belichick can do some really, really destructive things with. The 21st pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select linebacker Devin Lloyd. You guys already know what this is. You already know. He's going to come in, and he's going to be their new Dante Hightower. So, yeah, there's that. 22nd pick belongs to the Green Bay Packers. This is the first of two selections the Packers will make in the first round. They got this pick via the Devontae Adams trade with Vegas, so they'll have two selections. The cupboard's pretty bare at receiver. They did sign Samuel Watkins. That does help just a smidge, but you still don't have a number one receiver in Green Bay right now. So you might as well strike while the iron's hot. There's a guy that is coming off of an injury, super talented. If he's healthy, he's probably wide receiver one in this draft class, but because he's injured and you didn't get to see him work, there are questions about when he'll be able to actually contribute. He's ahead of schedule reportedly. If you're Green Bay, you can afford to take this guy, even if he's not ready. You got Aaron Rodgers. You still got enough receivers, Alan Lazard, and you drafted Amari Rodgers last year, and you got Samuel Watkins, and you got Randall Cobb. You got enough stuff that can get you over until this kid's ready to perform and help. But he might be ready a lot sooner than you think. Either way, you're getting a stud here at 22 that you have no business getting your hands on if you're the Green Bay Packers. So, with that said, the 22nd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Jameson Williams, wide receiver, Alabama. So now the Arizona Cardinals are on the board, and this is really interesting here because you could go in a number of different directions if you're Arizona. I mean, you could use some more pass rush. You just lost Chandler Jones in free agency. You could go receiver here. You just lost Christian Kirk in free agency. You did bring back it's A.J. Green, but you could still go receiver here, right? You could go running back here, though. You lose one of your running backs to the Dolphins, a guy that I really like. And so you did bring back James Conner, but you could use a running back here. Breece Hall makes a ton of sense right here if you're Arizona. But ultimately, it's a passing league. Cliff Kingsbury is a former quarterback. He wants to throw the football. They're going to go with a receiver. They need a receiver, and there are plenty of them sitting here. And there's one in particular that some people are really high on, some people are low on. I said earlier, the only thing that's worse than not running a 40 is running a slow one. This guy opted to not run a slow 40. Good for him. That was the smart decision. But there's one thing he can do, and that's make plays, catch the football, box guys out. He's got a big frame, and he knows how to use it. And the Cardinals had a guy last year get injured that knows how to use his frame and is a big guy that boxes players out. And he wasn't there, and their offense struggled. So what's better than one guy that's big, physical, and has a frame that can go out and catch back shoulder fades and catch anything that's out there? Having two of those guys, and that's what the Arizona Cardinals are going to do. Some insurance in case DeAndre Hopkins goes down. Again, we got a guy. At 23 overall in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select So, the Dallas Cowboys are now on the clock at number 24. And interesting offseason for the Cowboys. They trade Amari Cooper. They lose a bunch of guys. It's like a mass exodus in Dallas. Lose Randy Gregory. Lose Lyle Collins. Lose Cedric Wilson. Lose Connor Williams. All to free agency. They do make some moves, however. They're able to keep Dan Quinn. I thought that was the biggest move last year. I think that's equally the biggest move again this year is having Dan Quinn come back as defensive coordinator. Thought he was going to leave for a head coaching job. They re-signed Michael Gallup. That's why they were able to move on from Amari Cooper. And they also signed James Washington. Interesting move there because I actually think James Washington is talented, and if given an opportunity, he can do more than what he did in Pittsburgh. That said, the Cowboys are going to look like a different team this year. That offensive line has been the stalwart for them, really the catalyst that has driven them to any success, and now it's being tested. So what do you do if you're Dallas? I think you replenish that offensive line ASAP, and you've got an opportunity to do that here. A bunch of guards that are available. I say you take one and you keep it pushing, and that's exactly what the Cowboys are going to do here at number 24. With the 24th pick overall in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, Jers boys, take Kenyon Green, offensive lineman out of Mississippi State. So now you get to the 25th pick, and it's the Buffalo Bills. This is a really interesting decision for the Bills. They don't really need a lot. I mean, they're one of the most complete teams in all of football. So what do you do when you're playing with house money? You kind of survey your roster, kind of see where you can tie up loose ends. They get Von Miller. That was the biggest need that they had. They couldn't get to the quarterback, which is why Patrick Mahomes filleted them in the divisional round. Despite having one of the best defenses in football, their Achilles heel was they couldn't get to the quarterback consistently enough. So you go get Von Miller. That's supposed to remedy that. They move on from Cole Beasley. They've got receivers for days. They could take a receiver in this draft, and they probably ultimately will at some point, but they don't need to do that here. The biggest weakness now left on this Bills roster is corner, okay? Tre'Davious White's coming off of a major knee injury, so that's a question mark. If he's healthy, we know he's one of the better corners in football, but who's opposite of him? It used to be Levi Wallace. Well, he's no longer there. He left for free agent dollars, and so they've got to replace Levi Wallace, and they could go in a number of different directions, but at the end of the day, I think corner makes the most sense here for the Buffalo Bills. They could go running back, pair Devin Singletary. Zach Moss has been okay, but it doesn't really move the needle. They could pair, Zach or Devin Singletary with Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker, one of these guys that looks like complete back, a three-down guy. That's an option here too, but I think the Bills look to eliminate the biggest weakness on the team right now. Get it out of the way so you don't have to worry about it, and that's cornerback. And they've got options, but here's the one that I think they decided to go with. With the 25th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select Kyler Gordon, cornerback, Washington. I told you, they're well coached at Washington at the cornerback position, in the secondary in general. Look how many secondary members have made it to the NFL from Washington over the last 7 years. They're well coached in the secondary, and that's a well coached player in Kyler Gordon with a very high upside. So you get to 26. Here's the damn Giants again, wheeling and dealing. Though they've already made 2 trades in this draft. They've already acquired a third first-round pick, and they've now added a second-round pick in next year's draft to their portfolio with the trade with Tennessee. So in addition to coming into this draft with 2 top 10 picks, they took 2, turned it into 3. Then they took that third pick and turned it into a second round pick next year. So the Giants are killing it in this draft. And not to mention, they've checked off boxes. Needed a corner, got that out of the way. Needed an offensive tackle, got that out of the way. So what's left? You need an edge rusher. That's the last thing on the checklist for the Giants in the first round. So they're going to take care of that right now. And there's a guy sitting here with a really raw talent. And if you can extract the talent that he has and get that to turn into real production, as you started to see at the end of his collegiate career, this could manifest itself into a big move. Azeez Ojulari last year started to come on. If this guy has what it takes to complement him on the opposite side, the Giants defense could get nasty. With the 26th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the New York Football Giants select Boye Mafe, edge rusher, Minnesota. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now on the clock at 27. Here's a team that looked to defend their Super Bowl crown, fell short, lost to the Los Angeles Rams. Tons of injuries really decimated the Buccaneers at season's end. No Antonio Brown, he had a meltdown. No Chris Godwin, he tore his ACL, and it really hurt them. The lack of receivers really hurt them. So Brady looked like he was retiring. Nobody bought what he was selling. He's back. Bruce Arians is out. In is Todd Bowles, and they've pretty much got the gang back together yet again. Stands for a couple of guys that are still dangling out there. Gronk's gonna come back, don't you worry. But Ndamukong Suh's still hanging out there, and I mean they clearly could bring Suh back for his annual 1 year $10 to $12 million deal that he seems to be signing for on an annual basis. But why when you can get a younger, cheaper, hungrier option at defensive tackle? And that's essentially what the Bucs look to do here. It's good to know that if they didn't get it done in the draft, Suh's still out there and they could always pick up the phone and call him. But here's an opportunity to get a clone of Ndamukong Suh right here, and have a guy that dominated the Senior Bowl come in and hopefully dominate at the NFL level, put him right next to Vita Vea, and keep the party going as one of the most ferocious rush defenses in football. The 27th pick overall in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Travis Jones, defensive tackle, Connecticut. So now the Green Bay Packers are on the board for the second time, on the clock for the second time in the first round. And they've already taken wide receiver Jameson Williams out of Alabama to bolster that wide receiver core. Now they're looking to continue to protect Aaron Rodgers. They could go edge rusher here, but they re-upped on Preston Smith. They could go in a number of different directions. There are a lot of options available. They could go even running back if they so choose right here. But why? When you can protect Aaron Rodgers. One of the problems last year with the Packers is that they had injuries on the offensive line. And one thing the Packers do have, the ability to do is just move guys around, musical chairs. Well, that shit gets old after a while. You want guys to be in their positions, not have to move around. You got your left tackle playing right guard. You got your, left guard playing right tackle, and you got all this craziness going on. So more depth, more opportunities for guys to solidify positions on the offensive line. I think that's what they're looking to do. You get Aaron Rodgers back. He's no spring chicken. You need to protect him. So that's what the Green Bay Packers look to do here at number 28. 28th overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Tyler Smith, offensive lineman, out of Tulsa. Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock for the first time at 29 overall, and they'll be on the clock for the next pick as well. So back-to-back picks for the Chiefs. They got one of these picks in the Tyreek Hill deal from Miami. Miami got that pick from San Francisco. That's why it's so late in the draft. So this is Kansas City's pick. The next one is the one they got in the Tyreek Hill trade. So when you look at this Chiefs football team, who saw Tyreek Hill getting traded? Nobody. So obviously that sent shockwaves not only through this Chiefs football team, but the entire NFL. But what the Chiefs have done in pretty, rapid fashion is that they've went out and gotten veteran players. The party doesn't stop. Now, they're going to get a young guy to come in here, and bolster that receiver core, because they still don't have a true number one wide receiver and all the guys that they have. But you still got Mecole Hardman. You got a bunch of guys that were already on the roster, like Demarcus Robinson. He may be back. He may not be back. But you bring in Juju Smith-Schuster. You bring in MVS. And so you got guys. And what that allows you to do is not have to be in a hurry to select a receiver here at 29. You can do it at 30. You can do it in the second round. You got 2 second-round picks as well. You can do it at any time. There's depth at receiver. So I think the Chiefs have an opportunity to play the long game right here. Frank Clark signed a 2-year extension, but you can get out of that thing. He'll be gone after the 2023 season, essentially, is what that means. Why not draft his replacement right now? Give him a guy that can go opposite of him, not this year, but maybe next year. And it'll be like having another first-round pick next year. And, again, you'll be drafting a guy that can give you what Frank Clark has or hasn't given you. It's ironic that they went to the same school, but this is the Chiefs having the ability, because they're the Chiefs, to play the long game. Not many teams in the league can do this. The Chiefs are one of the few. And so with the 29th overall selection in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select David Ojabo, edge rusher, Michigan, tore his Achilles during his pro day. And so probably going to miss the entire 2022 season. So this is a draft and stash. If you're Kansas City, you can afford to do that. And so now the Chiefs are back on the clock again. Again, this is the pick they got from the Miami Dolphins. And so now they can go receiver if they so choose. They could go corner. They could use that as well. Oh, okay, so we have a trade. In comes the Cleveland Browns out of nowhere. And so Browns did not have a first-round pick, if you recall, due to the Deshaun Watson trade. That went to Houston. So they were on the outside looking in. They have obviously targeted a player here. And reports are the minute that this player got past Tampa Bay at 27, they picked up the phone and called Kansas City to make this deal. So this was the guy that they thought the Bucs were going to take. Frankly, I don't know how he's even still here. He could turn out to be one of the best players in this draft. He's got Aaron Donald type quickness. He's sitting here, and the Browns are like, man, we don't have a lot on the interior of our defensive line. We missed Larry Ogunjobi when he left for free agency. We never really replaced him. Jadeveon Clowney was okay. He actually tried to come on late in the season. Ended up with 9.5 sacks, but can't trust him, and we didn't get a lot out of Sheldon Richardson. And so we need something inside. Myles Garrett can't do it by his damn self. In comes this next selection. And the reason they had to trade up is because one of their teams in their division, the Cincinnati Bengals, they were about to take this player. They were poised to take him, and they knew it. And that's why the Browns swoop in. Gotta love some good old-fashioned, interdivisional violence, or as I like to call it, family business. If these two teams said they ain't did it, then they ain't did it. But if they did, well, that's family business. And boy, it always feels good to stick it to one of your fellow divisional family members. And that's what the Browns just did here at number 30. With the 30th overall selection in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle, Georgia. And so if you're the Chiefs, you're killing it right now because now you got 3 second-round picks. You can do whatever you want. You could do whatever you like. Yeah, you see a guy that you want at 34, you can package up some picks and go get him. You see a guy that you want at 42, you can package up some picks to go get him. You can make a move. You could play around and you could make all 3 of those selections and really help your team. So they're in a great position. That trade wasn't about picking up the 44th overall pick from the Cleveland Browns. That was about picking up the second rounder next year that they got in addition to 44 this year. So they're playing the long game, are the Kansas City Chiefs, and benefiting because of it. So now we get to the 31st pick in the draft, and it belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals were ever so close to winning the Super Bowl last year and hoisting a Lombardi. They came out of nowhere. Joe Burrow, tore his ACL the year before. You weren't sure what you were going to get out of him. He tore up the league last year. So did his ex-LSU running mate in Jamar Chase, who won Offensive Rookie of the Year and set countless NFL records for a rookie wide receiver. They were outstanding last year. They beat the number 1 and 2 seeds on the road in the postseason last year. And look, this is a team that their future is super bright because you have a young budding star at the quarterback position. So there's a lot to be excited about. But if you're Cincinnati, the offensive line was an issue still. Joe Burrow was sacked 70 times last year, and that's not even remotely close to the second team in the league in terms of sacks surrendered. So that needs to be rectified. Well, they did that in the offseason. They went out and got Alex Kappa from the Bucs. They went out and got La'el Collins from Dallas. And so they went out and got Ted Karras from the New England Patriots. So they've done work on that offensive line. They could do some more work here. I mean, you got a guy sitting here in Tyler Linderbaum that would make a ton of sense for you, but you really wanted Devontae Wyatt. I mean, honestly, you could have traded up. The guy had no business being there. You were just 1 pick away from getting your hands on him. Instead, you got to go to your backup plan. Look, at the end of the day, you did some serious work in free agency last year. I mean, Trey Hendrickson was a man possessed last year, but I thought some of your best work was at corner. Getting Chidobe Awuzie, getting Mike Hilton. Those guys changed the game for you. But also Eli Apple was spectacular for you, especially in the postseason. But we all know Eli Apple can go rotten real quick. So why put yourself in a position where you're relying on Eli Apple year in, year out? Why not upgrade that position? I think this is the perfect opportunity to do that if you're Cincinnati. And I've got just the guy for you here with the 31st pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. Cincinnati Bengals select Kaiir Elam, cornerback, Florida, is the pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. And so now we wrap up the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft with the Detroit Lions. This is a team that I think wanted a quarterback in this draft class. They didn't want one bad enough to take him at number 2, and I don't blame them. But they were interested in getting a quarterback, and they thought about doubling back and scooping a dude up, but they just went off the board a lot higher than Detroit had anticipated. So they said, we'll just sit tight at 32. We're good. We don't need to do anything crazy. And so they're looking around at what's left, and they're saying, man, there's still some great value. Quarterback isn't great value here at 32, but you know what is? There's a leader, the kind of guy that we're looking to build our franchise around. And we got a strong defender earlier in Aiden Hutchinson. Now we got a chance to get another strong defender that's really going to change the game and maybe help catapult this Lions defense into a different category, one that you fear, for years to come. Aiden Hutchinson, that's a good selection. And this one may be an even better selection. To me, much better value at number 32 in the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft. The Detroit Lions select Nakobe Dean, linebacker, Georgia. So here's the recap of all the picks made in this mock draft, feel free to hit the pause button if it's moving too fast for you. Now, here are a couple of names that, had I done a 2-round mock, would have been really intriguing to see where these guys went. You got Andrew Booth Jr., who was an option for the Bills at 26, but because of injury concerns and surgeries that he's had, they decided to go in a different direction. So, he's an option. Tyler Linderbaum, Treylon Burks didn't go in the first round. You also have, Dax Hill and Zion Johnson. These are guys that didn't go in the first round. But when you look at some of the other guys, Christian Watson was a guy that easily could have gone in the first round. Won't be shocked if he does go in the first round. Breece Hall, Kenny Walker, the third, are two running backs that are really intriguing. So I think there are a lot of good players left. This is what you expect when you talk about one of the deeper draft classes that we've seen. So interesting stuff. But that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also make sure you like this video, comment as well. Tear my mock draft to shreds. It happens every year. Or tell me what you think. Leave it down in the comment section. Can't wait to hear what you have to say. In any event, I'll be live for the draft days 1 and 2. So if you don't have anything to do, you don't have anywhere to watch, or you don't have something that you're watching, come kick it with me, your man Louie T, in the draft party here on the Louie T Network. With that said, you guys enjoy the rest of your day, night, evening, whatever time of the day it is. And I'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Louie.